Welcome back. San Diego just logged its highest homeless count ever, and public outcry continues to build over the situation.
Joining us to discuss the growing homelessness problem and a new initiative to solve it is Carl DeMaio, the chairman of Reform California. Carl, good morning.
Good morning.
Great to have you on the set.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this is an issue that we were just talking about. It's really all throughout San Diego.
California.
Really, you're seeing it in every single pocket where it used to just be a downtown San Diego issue. But I think in all the communities, people want answers.
They want answers, and they're wondering why. And unfortunately, the media is gaslighting on this issue. They don't want to explain that California politicians, the liberal politicians starting in 2008 here in San Diego with Todd Gloria on the city council, as well as Gavin Newsom and Jerry Brown, they all put in place something called Housing First. No other state in the nation uses the Housing First approach like California. And that's where we basically say we will no longer enforce laws. And that's a huge hit to our ability to deal with homelessness, because we've shown time and time again across the country that mental health and substance abuse issues are the root cause of homelessness. 80%. It's not a housing issue. It's not an economic issue. It's mental health and substance abuse. It's why people can't hold a job. They've got skills. They can get jobs. These are very accomplished people, but because of the mental health problem, because of that addiction, they no longer can actually hold a job, keep relationships, and therefore they can't earn money. Doesn't matter how much you give them. And so what happens is with Housing First, their goal is not to enforce, not to treat the root cause, but to give them the key to a taxpayer subsidized permanent housing unit. And the emphasis is on the word permanent, which means we, the taxpayers, are on the hook permanently. What's the cost? $700,000, $900,000, $1 million per unit for these permanent supportive housing units. Where's the money coming from? They are raiding shelter beds. In California, at Reform California, we've got a story up on this. We looked at the number of shelter beds, the number of transition housing units, and that's where someone is getting off the street, but they're not quite ready to afford their own apartment. You put them in for a couple months, a transitory housing unit, an apartment, particularly for families. Those two counts have gone down dramatically. We've cut those counts, cut transitionary housing, we've cut the shelter beds across the state. Why? They're raiding money so that they can put it into these $1 million per pop housing units. Now, what's been the result? California has spent $25 billion on Housing First projects since 2018. We have spent more money than we've ever spent, more money per homeless person in the state of California than any other state. But now we've seen our homeless population skyrocket 36% since 2018. California, according to the stats this week, 1 in 3 homeless people in this country live in California. But we only account for 12% of the population. We are the homelessness capital of our country because we are enabling it, and we're not giving the professionals, law enforcement and social service professionals, the tools they need to compel the change in behaviors that will get these people to break the cycle of dependency. This is a scam. One last thing on why. People say, well, Carl, why would Democrats be doing this? Why would the politicians be doing this? When you help a homeless person get off the street, they get a job and they can be self-sufficient, they don't give the politician a campaign contribution. It's just the satisfaction of knowing the person got better. But if you give a developer billions of dollars to build these boondoggles at $1 million per pop or $700,000 per pop, and how can you defend those prices? And then give the key to a homeless person, the developer gets rich, and a big campaign contribution rolls into the Democrat state party, the Democrat county party, and all of those politicians. Look at all the money that Todd Gloria has collected from Housing First developers. Toni Atkins, state senator, she's one of the big proponents of Housing First. Her wife is a Housing First consultant. She makes her career money off of a failed policy. So I challenge the San Diego Union Tribune. I challenge all the other stations. Do your damn job. Follow the money. We've spent more money on homelessness than ever, and it is an epic failure, and people are dying on the streets, and our communities are living with the crime, the grime, and the nuisance. Nobody wants to see this continue, but unless we tell the politicians like Todd Gloria and Gavin Newsom that their time is up on these policies, we won't get change. March 2024, Gavin Newsom has put Housing First on the ballot in 3 initiatives. First, he wants to raid mental health funding. The voters foolishly passed a tax increase about 7 or 8 years ago. And they said, we're going to get billions of dollars for mental health funding because it's mental health that's the problem with homelessness. We need more capacity. I agree. We need more mental health therapists and professionals to help the problem. This funding stream was supposed to provide that. He says, nope, we don't want to provide the services. We just want to get the money so we can give them a home. So the first initiative he wants is to amend that tax increase to allow him to raid the money, take it away from mental health professionals, and put it into housing first, these boondoggles. Second, he then says, I want to bond it. I want to issue a bond so that we can spend all the money up front, all at once, on billions of dollars of projects. Third, he says, and I want to prevent local city councils and voters from voting down my welfare housing projects. Their goal, and they've said it quite clearly, is that every community has an obligation to put a homeless shelter in their neighborhood. Every community. And as we were talking about during the commercial, they're putting homeless shelters in your community without you knowing it because they're using hotel vouchers to convert motels into homeless camps. And the crime has exploded. Bill Wells from El Cajon has been on KUSI talking about this issue and the amount of crime and issues that's raised there. And so they want to eliminate the right of voters to vote down welfare housing projects through ACA 2. All three of these initiatives are on the ballot. We're opposing at Reform California, all three of them. We think it would be great to send a message to vote down Gavin Newsom and Todd Gloria's failed programs in March. And then we've got our own plan. Instead of housing first, which I've nicknamed homelessness forever, we say people first. We have the people first plan. You've got to get to the root cause individually of why each of these people are homeless. And it 99% of the time has to deal with homelessness being mental health or substance abuse driven. But there are unique circumstances. There are people who were the victim of domestic violence. There are people who are on the streets because they have a physical disability. Those are people that we can get into the transitory housing programs to stabilize them. But when you're just giving the keys to anyone who doesn't want to make a change in their life, you're putting that person at the front of the line when a family or someone who truly could get off the street if they just had 60 days in a housing unit. We could have got that person off the street. The system has been overwhelmed. So the housing first plan needs to be replaced with people first, 3-point plan to empower law enforcement, to put the money into transitory housing and shelter beds. I don't want to build $1 million units. I want to build military-style bunk beds with cots and 3 meals a day, safe, clean area. And then finally, we want to make sure that we have the mental health and treatment programs, substance abuse programs available. No one should be turned away. We've got the money to do it. We'll actually save money doing it this way. But we need support from the voters. We need Democrat voters to join us, in addition to independents and Republicans who I think have seen the light. So our campaign site is cleanupourstreets.org. Simple. Cleanupourstreets.org. On that site, we have news and information to explain the fraud of Housing First, and we also have a way for people to sign a petition to support the People First plan, contribute, as well as sign up to be a volunteer. But we're seeing a blackout by the media. KUSI has been on this story, and you have held Todd Gloria's feet to the fire for his failures. I think we ought to start naming every homeless camp on every corner a Gloriaville. And I know you all have used that term. I think it's
Bill Walton.
You ought to call it that, because politicians need to be humiliated by this scam that they participated in, because they feel as long as the media does the blackout, doesn't explain what's really happening, they can continue to give this money to these high-priced development projects and collect their campaign contributions. And Senator Tony Atkins' wife can continue to be a consultant while her wife in Sacramento is insisting that only the money go to Housing First programs, which means go hire my wife, pay her a bunch of money. This is a scam, it is a scandal, and it has a human tragedy element to it. We have to do better. Go to cleanupourstreets.org.
All right, Carl DeMaio, thank you so much for joining us today,
Thank you.
driving in to hang out with us.
Happy to be back on set.
All right, thanks, Carl.